morning, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. Do come on in. I'll wait for Zoom to get settled and let everybody through. Hello. For those of you who don't know me, I am Emma from Small Business Britain, and I am very happy to welcome you to today's social media webinar. Do say hi in the chat and let us know where you're tuning in from today. Good morning, good morning. Oh, lots of lovely hearts. That's lovely to see. Hi. Hi from London. Hello. Ealing. Oh, lots of London-based people. Fabulous. So today we will be showing you what to post, when to post, and how to engage with the fabulous digital wellbeing and social media coach, Sam Flynn. Hello, Sam. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you here. If you have got some questions as we go, feel free to pop them in the Q&A box at the bottom, and we will ask Sam those at the end of the session. If you want to turn on captions for the webinar, you can as well. It's just the button just at the bottom of your screen, CC show captions, and that will turn that on for you. We will be recording today and we will email it out to you tomorrow. So if you want to catch up on anything, watch a replay, take some more notes, you can do so. We upload everything to our Facebook page and also now our YouTube channel. So you can have a look at other webinars we've got on there as well. I want to say a massive, huge thank you to BT Digital Skills for supporting this webinar and making it possible today. We really could not do it without you. Sam, I think that is probably enough from me.
Great.
So I'll hand over to you now and I'll see you at the end for some questions.
Perfect. Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for joining on this lovely sunny day. Hopefully it's sunny where you are. I was just having a quick look though in the chat to see where you were all based, and I'm up in Manchester where today we don't have rain, we have sunshine. So that is always welcome. So today we're going to talk about your social media content, which is always a massive topic. And to be honest, we could do a whole full day on social media content, as I'm sure you know. It is much bigger than an hour, but I'm going to give you as much as I possibly can give you within this hour. Please do keep active on the chat, and definitely at the end we will then do Q&A. So if you do have any questions, save them for the end so that they don't get lost in the chat, or at the very least repeat them at the end so we can make sure we can answer as many questions as possible. Quick intro to me. As you just heard, I do both digital wellbeing and social media. So I've been a social media trainer for 15 years. Believe me, it has changed a lot in 15 years. I mean, TikTok didn't even exist back then, let alone even posting video. Like, you couldn't even post video on Twitter 15 years ago. In fact, I don't think you could even post images on Twitter 15 years ago. That's how much it's changed in the time that I have been delivering social media training to businesses. So I work in-house with businesses. I do lots of online training as well. And I also do digital well-being, which is all about how we manage our well-being in this digital world and make sure we know how to switch off from these devices that are never far away from us. And I'm sure yours is next to you right now. And if you can resist using it for the next 57 minutes, I would definitely appreciate it, because there is nothing more attention grabbing than these blooming smartphones. So that's a very brief intro to me. Please do come along and follow me on Instagram. You can see my Instagram username there in the bottom corner. And the place I'm probably most active is LinkedIn. So do come and connect with me on LinkedIn. If you search my name, you should be able to find me, but I will also put my LinkedIn link, profile link, in at the end of the session as well. So today we're going to look at what kinds of content are currently engaging and driving growth, how to time your posts so you get them in front of as many people as possible, and how to create meaningful relationships with your audience. They're going to be our key points that you hopefully will leave this 1 hour session with having a better understanding of, and lots of ideas, and just feel inspired, because sometimes, I know it myself, I'm a small business owner, and sometimes having to create content all the time and come up with new ideas can be exhausting. So hopefully I'll be able to help you out today. So before we begin and before we really dive into content, I think that as small businesses, we have a superpower. Well, really, we have many superpowers. Just running a business in itself, I think, is a superpower. And especially if you're doing it alongside everything else that goes with life. You know, I have 3 kids, and believe me, being a parent is also a superpower. But if we just look at our social media content, I think as small businesses, we have a superpower over the bigger businesses. And I'd love to hear in the chat box what you think that superpower is. There's no right or wrong here, because if you believe it's a superpower, it is a superpower. But what do you think the superpower is when it comes to social media content of you and your small business compared to these huge big businesses out there? And I'm just going to let that run for a few more seconds. I'm loving all the ideas coming through. I'm not going to have time to read them all, unfortunately, because there's absolutely loads of you on today, nearly 250 of you on today. So I'm definitely not going to have time to go through all of these, but I'm loving seeing some of the things here. Relationship with customers. Relationship has got to be one of my favorite words when it comes to social media, and it's so true. We have that superpower of really building a great relationship with our customers, a more personal service to clients, relatability, agility, flexibility, autonomy. Oh, loads of brilliant words. Your English teachers would have been very happy back in the day when you were at school. As I say, I'm not going to be able to read through them all, but as I scroll through, I am seeing a couple that are the thing I really wanted to hone in on. And it kind of comes with lots of different ones, really, actually, as I'm looking through. They're all sort of related to this. And it is you. You are the superpower. And it comes down to things like your personality, which I'm seeing in there, being personable, building personal relationships, that relationship word again, relationship and community, connection. People buy from people who they know, like, and trust. I'm just reading from Ashley. Yeah. And all of that kind of links together to you being at the center of that. Now, sometimes as small businesses, we have this thing where we think, oh, I need to pretend to be bigger than I am. And you don't. Because actually, when we start to pretend to be bigger than we are, we take away us, we take away you. And you are the superpower here when it comes to your content. I love that, Ashley. I've got the power, the superpower. Yeah. Oh, one of my favorite episodes, if you're a Grey's Anatomy fan, is when I haven't watched it in years now, but the brain surgeon, when she does her like superhero pose before she goes into surgery. I want you guys to start doing a superhero pose before you create your content, because you do have the power to be you. And actually, that should be quite easy. You don't need to log into social media or go to create your content and switch off you and switch into business mode. Let them be the same thing, because your personality is your superpower. You are your superpower. The relationships you can build through your content is your superpower. And all these massive, huge businesses, they don't have that. They try, they're like, oh, we'll show a few of our people, but they've got that many people that it's very hard for them to build those personable relationships through social media. And so instead, they've kind of got to go just heavy on the business side. And for the most part, a lot of it is quite boring. That's what really we're trying to avoid with our content. It's just making people want to scroll straight past it. You know, we all have RSI now from our thumbs constantly scrolling, and we need to create thumb stopping content. We need to make sure people are going, "Ooh, that's really interesting." So use that superpower and think about that superpower as we go through all of these content ideas. Because the more we build relationships with people, the more likely they are to buy from us. And at the end of the day, why are we sharing content? In fact, let's add that as another question. Let's put that in the chat. Why are you sharing content on social media? Why are you bothering? What is your end result that you're looking for when you're sharing content on social media? What do you actually want to achieve by sharing anything on social media? So we've got to reach people, awareness, to make sales, to feel connected, to build a community, to inform, to spread positivity, to attract more customers, to make sales, again, to stand out, to expose my business to a larger audience. I'm speed reading through all these comments coming through. They're brilliant. And that's the thing. We have to focus on the end result as well. We need to think, I'm not just on here to mess about all day and have fun creating some cool TikTok dances or, have a little bit of a rant about politics on LinkedIn. I'm not here to do that. Actually, the end result is I want to make sales. I want people to know who I am. I want to be visible. I want to create awareness about a topic. I want people to know who we are and what we do. So linking those two together, let's go into the rest of the session. Remembering you can be you on social media. You are the superpower within your business, and the other people within your business are also that superpower. And you have an end result in mind, and we need to make sure that you're not wasting time creating content on social media, that you're doing it for that purpose. Now, the other thing I really want to dwell on before we go into ideas and what's working is what I think the most important thing to consider is when creating content. So when you're sitting down and going, right, that's it, I'm having a content creation session, I'm going to come up with lots of ideas. What do you think the most important thing you should consider? And again, there's no right or wrong with this. I love seeing all the different answers coming through because they're probably all really important to consider. But what do you think I think the most important thing to consider is when it comes to creating content? I'm just going to again let that roll for a few seconds, give you all a chance to reply before I share what I think the most important thing is. And again, there are loads of brilliant answers in here: being honest, grabbing attention, clarity, integrity, standing out from the crowd, value, authenticity, lots of great things coming through. And this is what I think, and a few of you have said it, and you might have noticed I've missed out a certain kind of key word here. It's your audience. It's who you are speaking to. They matter more than you do. Because if we don't get it right for our audience, they're just going to scroll past. Your content is so important to you, but to them, it's just another little piece of content on a very, 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 very long stream of content. And this can be quite disheartening sometimes because we can pour all our love and attention and even hours into a piece of content just for people to scroll straight past it, because actually to them, it's just another piece of content on their feed. So if we don't get our content right for our audience, they're just scrolling past it. And it's a waste of time. Now, the other reason we need to focus on our audience is because I've spoken to businesses before where they've said, oh, we just want to reach everyone. This is an important message for everybody in the world. And I'm like, okay, great. With that, you're probably going to reach no one. Because if you don't hone in on exactly who you think is the right audience for you, you're going to find it really hard to appeal to anyone. So the key to think about is, what's my end result? We talked about that before. What's the thing I want to achieve, and who do I need to be in front of to achieve that end result? Someone asked, how do I know I'm addressing the right audience? Well, let's start with figuring out who that audience is. So if to get to my end result, who are the people in the middle that will lead me there? So if your end result was, I want to make more sales, there's a whole lot of people in the middle of that between your content and the sale happening. And they are your audience. So who are they? And that could be as simple as being, well, it's my target market. If you're B2B like me, you might want to drill down to things like location, job title. One of the things that always frustrates me is when I say to people, who's your audience? And they go, well, it's businesses of between 50 to 250 employees who are turning over approximately $1 million and so on. I'm like, that's not your audience. That might be your target market, but it's not your audience, because your audience has to be a person. It can't be a business. It has to be somebody in that business. So who is that person? What is their job title? So think about that. Who is that middle ground? Who am I speaking to on social media? And you can look at things like your insights, depending on the platform, to see who your audience is currently. And if that is not aligned, you might need to start shifting your content to appeal to the audience that you are trying to attract. Because actually, something we always kind of, get het up on is like, oh, I put this post out and it only got seen by 100 people. If that was 100 of the ideal people that you want to see that post, then that is a heck of a lot of people. So, thinking like, oh, I only reached 100 people. If you get that right, and it is the right 100 people, that's amazing. You haven't even spent any money. You might have only spent 2 minutes on putting that post out there, and you've reached 100 of your ideal audience members. So we really need to think about who's our audience. Someone used the word avatars there in the chat. Yeah, absolutely. Avatars are a great way of doing this. This is where we turn that audience into a real person. I can go, okay, I just want to be speaking to Kate, who's 35. She's a mum of two. She's stressed and overwhelmed. She's got a full-time job, etc. And you can create this whole avatar around that audience. So that's really key. And a few of you are asking, well, how do we attract the right audience? Well, this is kind of the right step. Figure out who you want to attract and then create content that will attract them. So if, for example, you are a baby sleep consultant, of course, you want to attract new parents or people who are expecting or people who are in the throes of overwhelm with that. And therefore, that your content will address that. And therefore, you will attract that naturally. There are many other ways of finding those audience members that we haven't got time to go into today, but certainly content is a really, really important one. And if your audience is too broad, sorry, I've got the chat running at the same time so I can be as responsive as possible to what your guys are chatting about. If your audience is too broad, you might be able to hash it up into different avatars. And then you might be able to think about different platforms for different audience members, or trying to maybe go, okay, well, this piece of content will really appeal to this group of audience members, and find ways to really bring that down a bit more narrow. It depends really what you do as well, because sometimes what you do, even if the audience is broad, what you actually do might be niche enough that you aren't kind of competing against lots and lots of people. Okay, so we know our superpower is us. We know also that we need to appeal to our audience. We know that we need to build relationships with them. And we know that we need to get to our end result with our content. So let's talk then about content that is engaging right now. And to be honest, it hasn't changed a great deal. What is engaging doesn't really particularly change. There are little tweaks here and there, or new platforms that come in, or new opportunities. But mostly, actually, it pretty much stays the same, because we as people don't change. We're always going to like similar kind of things. Before we do go into what we find, what is some kind of engaging content out there at the moment, I'd love for you to share very quickly brands, and they don't have to be small businesses. In fact, you might only be able to think of bigger businesses, but brands that you think their social media content is like chef's kiss. Like you see it and go, yeah, they're nailing it. They've got it down. They know exactly how to make me stop scrolling. They know how to speak to me. I am their audience, and I will look at every single post that they put out there. And you might want to kind of go through this yourself and screen grab the chat after. Just to see some of the brilliant recommendations, because this is a really important step as well. Go and look at other people's content. Go and look at the content that you think, oh, they nail it for me. They really make me want to buy from them, or they really make me want to go and visit them, or they really make me want to find out more. And there's some great ones coming through. I did spot Aldi in there. I think Aldi are brilliant because they just use humor so well, and they push the boundaries a little bit as well with what they put out there. So yeah, some brilliant examples coming through on there. And yeah, go and take a look and then think, how can I use those kind of ideas and bring it to my small business? Because it's working. If it works for the big brands, it can also work for you, but with your added superpower, that is you. So what's working then in terms of content? Short form video. I'm sure you were pretty much expecting this. It's not gone away yet. Most of you are probably like, oh, no, please tell me we don't have to make video. Yes, unfortunately, or fortunately, if you enjoy it, you do. Short form video is getting bigger and bigger. It's not going anywhere. And so we need to make sure that we are part of this trend that is happening right now in the world. So that means, for example, thinking about, am I prepared to be me on camera? Because I think that is a really big superpower that you can have, is being yourself on camera, speaking to camera, sorry, and being on video. Because when people see your face and hear your voice, the relationship with you just skyrockets. And that for me has been a huge power in my business. I've had huge opportunities from just speaking to camera. And actually, some of my most successful videos have taken me seconds to create. I've just had a thought and gone, you know what? That's a great idea. Oh, here's something I'm thinking about. 10 seconds chat online, post it, and boom. I had one on Instagram that got like 60,000 views within a couple of minutes. And it took me approximately in total from recording to it being uploaded 2.5 minutes. So it's those ones of speaking to camera are great. Yes, it's also possible to have success with faceless videos. They're really popular too right now. Make a habit of, if you see something beautiful, it could be a sunset, you could be strolling along a lovely beach on holiday, you could be I don't know, in a beautiful gallery or something, beautiful building with amazing architecture, all sorts of things. Just grab your phone and scan it, as in put it on video and just move your phone round. We don't have to overcomplicate this. Get it in your camera roll. And I will sometimes be like, oh God, I'm just not feeling right recording a video at the moment. What have I got in my camera roll that I could use? And the other great thing with short form video now is it can actually just be an image with music and text playing over it, or a series of images. So I've spoken to so many businesses who are like, well, we don't really have anyone that wants to appear on camera. And these are things like interior design companies. I'm like, okay, it'd be great if they did, but how about you actually just showcase what you do in terms of, showing what you've created. So yes, short form video is definitely one. Short means really anything less than kind of a minute, technically, or 90 seconds, but I would try and keep it as short as possible because attention spans have never been lower. This is some of the work I do in digital well-being. Just stop scrolling through TikTok videos because you're really affecting your brain, and how it can actually process information. And our attention span has never been shorter. And short form video is not helping with that. But if we flip it the other way, that means that we need to appeal to people in a very quick way. So I would try to keep it less than 30 seconds if you can. If possible. Not always possible, but really keeping it short is always a good plan. You might notice it yourself if you are someone who enjoys short form video content. You look at one and go, oh, 40 seconds, I'm not watching that. And you scroll on to the next one that's 11 seconds, and the next one that's 20 seconds, and the next one that's 15 seconds. And, you're happy to watch 3 short videos, but oh, a 40-second long video, I haven't got time for that. We're all so busy, aren't we? So yes, short form video, very, very important. I've noticed someone says in there, does your content doesn't always have to be about your business then? It's completely up to you. It's your content. Obviously, you've got to relate it back to the end result here. What am I trying to gain at the end of this? And if all your content is just about your life, that might be great if you're trying to build a following and a community and bring people in. It's a bit like what influencers do, really. They share lots about their life and then they sort of interrupt that with kind of sales messages like, oh, and actually this thing really helped me today, or I got a HelloFresh box which helped speed up my day, and that kind of thing. You've probably seen all of those kind of videos, and we can do similar with our businesses. We can share a bit about us and then kind of interject some business messages through that as well. It completely depends what your business does, of course, and the approach you're then going to take. But yeah, you being in camera, you can talk about your business, you can share your expertise, you can give a piece of advice, you can open up people's thinking. It's not necessarily about going on camera and going, oh, hi, I'm Sam, and today I went out with my kids and we had a nice walk and we did this and we got ice creams, the end. For me, it's like, actually, if I'm going to be on camera, it's a great opportunity for me to share my expertise and for people to get to know me. So short form video not going away. Also carousels. I've put Instagram carousel, but actually these work really well on LinkedIn as well. On LinkedIn, a carousel is where you have a little arrow and you can scan to the next visual. To do those on LinkedIn, it's a little bit different to just posting a series of images. You need to either upload a PDF or a PowerPoint, and it will give you the opportunity to then kind of, for people to scroll onto the next page. But yes, never post one picture on Instagram. Even posting 2 very similar pictures is better than posting one, because what Instagram does is it shows the initial post and then it shows it again down the line using the second or the third or the fifth image from that carousel. And the other great thing with carousels is it stops people and then they just automatically want to see what else is on that carousel. And so they're spending time on your post, which the algorithms love. So the things that decide, you know, how many people your post is going to be shown to, they love it when people stop on your post and it kind of shows to them, oh, this is something of interest to people. Let's show this to more people. Let's get this out there to the masses. Questions. You know, we're talking about engaging content. Therefore, we want engagement. We want interactivity. So many social media posts shut down conversation. They're factual. So, for example, come join me on today's webinar where we are going to be talking about creating amazing content. Here's where you can book on. Full stop. Who's going to engage with that? You might get the odd person saying, great, I'll be there. But to then add in a question, you know, what would you like to see covered in this webinar? What do you find hard about creating content? Just means it's kind of like, over to you. Let's have a chat. Let's have a conversation about this. And therefore, we can start to interact more effectively with our audience members. So ask them questions. Interaction is key. If you've ever been on a date and had very little conversation, you've probably never chosen to go on a second date, have you? Because it's conversation that builds the relationship. So we need to think of that in terms of dating our many, many audience members, not actually physically, that would be a bit too time consuming. But thinking about, you know, how are we going to build this relationship with them? How are we going to woo them? And it's a lot of it is all about conversation. Now, if you ask a question and no one comments, it can be a bit like, oh, I'm just going to stop doing this. It's getting embarrassing. To be honest, no one's scrolling through your posts and looking at them individually and going, ooh, bit embarrassing. No one's replied to their questions. It will happen. Keep asking. Think about the things, first of all, that people are always happy to talk about. So if you ask people like, oh, how much debt are you in? They're probably not going to comment on that and tell you how much debt they're in. But if you say like, oh, share a picture of your dog, you're going to go wild. You're going to have loads of people posting. So think about the questions that relate to your business and your audience that they are actually likely to answer and want to get involved in. So yeah, you've really got to kind of drill down a little bit. And there might be, if depending on what your business does, it can be tricky because it can be a bit like, well, you know, the only questions I can ask are not business related. So instead think, well, okay, well, let's interject a little bit of fun. If it's a heavy topic and there's lots of privacy involved, how can we just sort of slot a bit of fun through that? And just be yourself and have a chat and talk about general life. You know, for example, the other day I talked about shifting up my routine, how my motivation had dipped, I'm changing up my routine, and all of that kind of thing. It's not really related to my business, but it got lots of conversation going and lots of people chatting to me. And, you know, actually, I've had about 12 direct messages on LinkedIn based on that post, and people actually sharing quite some personal things with me that they didn't want to comment and why their motivation's going down. And it became more of a talk point rather than it being, you know, something that I turned into a business message. Similarly, polls are great for this because people just need to click an answer. So we can do polls on LinkedIn, we can do polls on Instagram posts, we can do polls on stories. There are a lot of opportunities there to make it easy for people to just answer a poll question. And that means they're kind of interacting with you without having to comment. And talking about stories, I think stories are a great place to engage people. They're a great place to just pop on and say something. You know, for me, for example, I might put out a more business sort of related me on my main posts where I kind of, you know, I'll talk about me, but I might spin it into a bit of a business message. Whereas on stories, I'll be like, oh God, this happened, or, you know, oh, we went out on the paddleboard at the weekend, or, you know, and I'll talk a little bit more about just my life in general. And I think the more I kind of do that, the more people get to know me. And, you know, it can be anything from, you know, having a lovely brunch with my daughter the other day and a picture of the food, which I would never, ever share in a profile post. But because stories disappear, there's that feeling of like, oh, this isn't exactly like something that I'm expecting everyone to really focus and pay attention on. It's just interacting with them more and giving them a little bit more of an insight into who I am. And knowledge, I think, is always going to work. Now, when we go back to what we talked about before, the audience, this is where you can really hone in on the right audience. What challenges do your audience have day to day that your knowledge can fix for them? So, for example, with my digital wellbeing work, I find a lot of the challenges that I find business owners or businesses in general have is time. We're all really short of time. Here's a little scary digital wellbeing fact that I'll interject here. In the UK, on average, we're spending about 4 hours a day on our phones. It doesn't sound a great deal until we realise that that's actually a quarter of our waking day if we sleep 8 hours, which we're probably not anyway. But if we did have 8 hours sleep, 4 hours a day is a quarter of our day that we're looking at our phones. Like, that's a quarter of our life. That's 3 months of our year that we're looking at our phones. And so, one of the things I talk about is how can I give people time back by giving them little techniques that they can, reduce that addiction down and pick it up a little bit less. Therefore, I'm speaking directly to the audience I want to speak to. I'm speaking to the people that matter to me and my business. I'm thinking about the end result where I'm raising awareness for this part of my business. And I'm sharing that I'm the expert in it and they're getting something from it too. It's a brilliant one. So think deeply about what do my audience face day to day that I can help them overcome. So it could be anything from they want to lose weight, or they need to feed their family on a budget, or it could be sleep related, or it could be they've got no time, or it could be that they want a dog but they don't know where to start in finding the right dog, or there's loads of topics out there, isn't there, that you could be the expert for. So have a think about, and actually probably what I would do is a brainstorm. Brainstorm for me is the perfect way to create content. So what I do is I grab my phone, great use of your phone, set a timer, usually for about 5 minutes, and I kind of would put like a topic in. So like, what challenges to face my audience around this topic. And then I'll just go kind of free flow, write as many things as I can think about. And what you've got there is knowledge you can share to them. Similarly, things that kind of invoke thought in them. One of my best performing Instagram reels a few years ago was when I said this simple statement. We pick up our phone because we think we're missing out on something, but by picking up our phone, we are definitely missing out on something. And it's like that, ooh, wow. It's like that, oh God, you just spoke to me and like, oh, you've made me think and I need to change something. Now, there was no advice in there. There was no knowledge. It just raises thoughts. So some thought-provoking posts can be really great, depending on obviously what it is that you actually do. Now, user-generated content is also really, really popular right now. So this is things like paying influencers to speak about your product or your service. And by the way, when it comes to using influencers on social media, this isn't about spending millions of pounds and getting, I don't know, Kim Kardashian to do a post for you. There are lots and lots and lots of micro influencers who might have like 1,500 followers who would be quite happy to just receive your product for free and then talk about it. And then you can use their content. You can say to them, oh, do you mind if I take that video that you've posted and pop it on my Instagram? Or do you mind if I, share that onto my stories? Because actually what we say about our business is great, but when other people are saying, this is brilliant, oh my God, this is the best product ever, or this is the best service ever, then it's going to have a much bigger impact. So anytime you see someone posting about your business and you think, actually, that's really great content, just ask them, oh, do you mind if I reshare this? And by the way, there is going to be an option very soon on Instagram to almost do like a retweet, a reshare that isn't just in stories. It is actually on the profile feed too, where you can see a post and go, actually, I'm going to put that on my feed. I'm going to have that on my profile. So that is coming soon. So user generated content will be even more important then. And of course, I bet when we look back through all those suggestions you said of people, business, content that you love, a lot of it will come down to this point. You love it because it's funny. You know, the world's very heavy, isn't it? There's a lot going on all the time, really, all the time. And our lives can be really heavy. And a lot of people go on social media just for a little bit of light-hearted fun. So to then go on and just be met with more heaviness, it's not what we want, is it? We don't want to be doom scrolling. We want to be joy scrolling. So give people joy. It's kind of like one of my trademarks is my smile. And that's just because pretty much, one, I have a big mouth, but two, I just want to light people up. I don't want them to see a drab, unhappy face. I want to make sure they kind of get that sense of happiness that comes through. So, um, humor, massively, massively important in this. Now, of course, again, go back to rewind back to things like your personality, your audience, of course, what your business does. And of course, there may be some in which humor is like, we cannot include any humor. But just think about ways that you could maybe just inject a little bit of lightness if your topic and your business is quite a heavy kind of topic. But certainly if you can have a little bit of fun, and that doesn't have to mean, if you're thinking, oh, I'd love to, but I'm just not funny. You don't have to be funny. Humor can come through by adding in emojis, or sharing a story of something that happened to you, or, there's lots and lots of different ways. You don't have to be doing TikTok dances or anything like that. You can have lots of different fun through just your social media content, and that will shine through. So a little bit of humor does go a long way on social media, and that will always, always be the case and will always be more engaging. And then we have music, because we all love a little bit of music in our lives, don't we? And, adding a little bit of music, playing over an image, obviously over a video, even videos of you talking to camera, you can have it so that the music is on very low in the background. And then you can have you can just inject a different feel to what you're posting, or you can kind of lead the way in how you want it to feel with the music you add into that. And of course, if you use sort of trending music, you've got that ability then to possibly appear higher up in feeds as a result and appear on the feed for that music. When it comes to using trending music on Instagram and TikTok, the best thing is to actually look for not the ones that have millions and millions of views, but the ones that are trending but have, like, say 10,000 not views, sorry, 10,000 videos created of them, because then it's like you're in that feed and you're much more visible and it is still trending music. So music you can get if you Google kind of license-free music, or you can create through Instagram Reels, and obviously there's lots of music options on there. Even Canva has audio and music there on Canva, so you can add it in there. So there are lots of ways for you to add music. So yeah, music is always a really lovely one to add in to add that level of engagement. And then I thought I would add this in. I didn't have this in until about an hour ago, actually. And I was writing my LinkedIn newsletter and I thought, I've not even mentioned LinkedIn newsletters, because since I started my LinkedIn newsletter, probably about a year ago, I have never got as much business through LinkedIn as I am right now. Without a doubt, the newsletter has made the biggest difference. And the great thing with LinkedIn newsletters is that when you create your newsletter, it then invites all of the people you're already connected to subscribe to it. And whenever you add a new connection, they are also invited to subscribe to it. Now, I am under no false pretenses here that, everyone's reading my newsletters. I release them now every 2 weeks. Initially, it was every week, and I now do it every 2 weeks just because I haven't got time. And also sometimes it's coming up with all the ideas to put into that newsletter. So I'm under no illusion that everybody is reading that. I know they're not, but of those subscribers, it lands in their notifications, it lands in their email inbox, and all I want is people mainly to see my name and associate it with the topic of my newsletter, which is actually all about digital well-being in businesses. So in terms of a LinkedIn newsletter, you don't have to pay. So I've just opened up the chat box. You do not have to pay to do a LinkedIn newsletter. It's completely free. It's under the articles section. So if you go to write an article on LinkedIn, there is an option there to create a newsletter. You can either do it from your company page or from your personal profile. I prefer myself to do it from me. I don't really use my company page on LinkedIn because it's just me. What's the point? I'd rather be more personable and use myself. And yeah, I just think they are brilliant. Because yeah, things like, of course, they do not replace things like email newsletters. Absolutely not. But the fact is, I've, built up a huge following on LinkedIn and connection base on LinkedIn. And a lot of them don't actually even scroll through content on LinkedIn. So if they've subscribed to my newsletter, at least it lands in their email inbox. And that's all because they were connected to me on LinkedIn. So lots of ideas there, hopefully, that's got you thinking. I mean, as I say, we could go about this all day, and I would love to dive into all of your individual businesses and come up with some ideas that relate to these for your business. But of course, that would literally take us all week if we did that. So we can't do that. But hopefully each of those has triggered a few ideas for what you could create for content for your business, that you can then use to build that engagement and get you to that end result. So the big thing I really want to stress here is this. And this is really important because, my engagement isn't amazing, I'll be honest. One of the reasons I went into digital well-being, because I got a bit like, I'm over social media, it's a bit much. And one of the things that we can do sometimes is get very entrenched in how many likes we're getting, how many comments we're getting, as if that equals success. It does not. And don't get me wrong, if you're an influencer, you need to show the businesses you're working with that, yeah, people are seeing this and they're engaging with it. But for us as businesses, all actually we need to see is it's getting my end result. Like for me, my end result is sales. So actually, as long as I'm getting sales, I don't need thousands of likes and thousands of comments. Granted, of course, the more people we get in front of, then the more opportunity there is to sell to those people and build relationships with those people. But they might not even be the right people. As I said, I've had Instagram Reels that have had tens of thousands of views. They didn't bring me any business at that time. So it's really important to remember this. Engagement does not equal sales. No. Engagement is a good thing to have to increase our reach. But I would rather have 100 of the right people seeing my post than 100,000 of the wrong people. So please don't get entrenched in the results. Please just look at them as a guide of like, oh, that gets more engagement than that. So I'll try and do a bit more of that because people like that and it builds more conversation. But don't start thinking that, oh, I'm not going to get any sales because I'm hardly getting any engagement. It doesn't always equal sales. Yep, it helps a little bit, but there is much more you can do to help move people towards becoming a customer. Excuse me. And one thing that definitely helps with this is the 80-20 rule. So the 80-20 rule is where 80% of your content doesn't sell a single thing to that person and 20% does sell. So what I mean by the 80% is the 80% could be knowledge sharing. We're not selling anything. We're just giving people knowledge for free. It could be just talking about you and your life. It could be sharing a lovely story about something that happened. It could be talking about why you started the business in the first place. There is lots of that 80% where you're just thinking about how can I build the strongest relationship possible with my community, with my audience. But it's really important that at some point we do say, oh, and by the way, you can buy from me too, and this is how you do it. So that could mean that you are maybe every 1 in 5 posts is a more sales driven post where you say, oh, I've got this webinar coming up, book on here, or I'm running this offer at the moment, you can buy it here, or we're launching this new product, keep your eye out for it, all of that kind of thing. Or it could be that you do a really nice, lovely post, and at the very end, you almost do like a little PS. PS, would you like my free guide on how to do X, Y, and Z? So it's about 80% being the relationship building and 20% being more about how can we then turn this relationship into actual sales. And it's really important that we do both because there are some people out there who are doing 100% sales posts and they're just switching people off because no one likes being sold to. And there are people out there doing 100% relationship building, trying to talk way too fast to squeeze as much in as possible. Relationship building, which means that they then are not actually converting those relationships because they're not telling people how to buy from them. So the 80-20 rule works really well in building those relationships and actually doing the selling. And on that note, I've probably shared about 80% of brilliant stuff with you so far. So here is my freebie. I have a freebie called 100 Content Ideas, and you are more than welcome to it. And I think it's just a really useful list for you to kind of print off, scribble out ones that you just think, well, that'll never work for my business, and use the ones that you think, actually, yes, that has given me some brilliant ideas. So I have popped the link for that in the chat. But yes, please do download that 100 content ideas and use it for how you can kind of adapt to your business. So what about timing them? How do we make sure we time our posts so we get as many people as possible to see them? Well, the first question to ask is, when are your audience actually active? Because I could give you times and go, right, you must post at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday to get the highest possible reach on LinkedIn, right? I could tell you that, but actually your audience might not be on LinkedIn at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday. So understanding your audience, again, is really important. And we can kind of have a little bit of a guess. Is it the mum who's up in the middle of the night feeding a baby? Is it someone who's had such a long, busy day, they've had no chance to go on social media and they're sat on the sofa at night scrolling? Is it the person who wakes up in the morning and instantly they're on their phone and having a look on social media? So, really trying to get to understand your audience first of all. There are some of the platforms will show you when your audience are most active. For example, Instagram Insights, if you go into there, you'll be able to see when your followers are most active. So use that data rather than thinking I'll go with the worldwide average. But I will share the worldwide averages anyway. This is according to Sprout Social, who have looked into this and researched this. And these are the times they recommend for 2025. I'm not going to go through all of them. I think really, and I'm put a but here, take it with a tiny pinch of salt in a way, because if your content isn't engaging enough, it doesn't really matter what time you post. If your content isn't appealing to your audience, it doesn't really matter what time you post. So, yes, those can be used as a guideline, but don't get kind of bogged down in them. Instead, think about your audience. Think about when they're most active. Think about when the message is going to be most valuable to them at that time. And make sure then that you are thinking about, how you can be in that space where they are at that time. Now, of course, with the algorithm, it sometimes doesn't matter anyway, because you could post at 11 a.m. on LinkedIn, and then LinkedIn shows it to most of your followers at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So, these are the guides from Sprout Social, and there are many other kind of pieces of research out there as well. UK times, by the way, are generally the worldwide average, because most of it is the Western world anyway that this is taken from. So yes, go and have a kind of more of an in-depth look, but it's more about thinking about, when is my audience active and how can I engage them in that time, rather than thinking about I must only post on LinkedIn at 11 a.m. Really important. So yeah, the time issue, it's not a massive one. Do it when it works for you. Do it when you're there to engage back as well is really important. So posting and then ghosting, not so much. You need to kind of be around to actually interact as well, preferably, or certainly within a few hours of your post going live. So that if there is a lot of comments, you're actually there to respond to those comments and help the reach get bigger and bigger and bigger. Because relationships really do matter. We need that interaction. We need that opportunity to have conversation with people. And I said at the start, relationships is one of my favorite words when it comes to social media. So how can we build more of them on social media? Well, we need to open up the conversation. We need to chat to people more, because the more conversation we have, the stronger the relationship, the more they feel they know us, the more they trust us, the more likely they are to buy from us. And that's all we're here for, right? We're not running charities, although some of you may be, but even charities need to make money. Be yourself. It's much easier to build relationships with a human than a brick structure. So be you, show you, be yourself, tell them your name, show them your face, and other people in the business, if you have a team as well. Be you. And this really does help. Again, if we relate it to dating, if you've ever been on a date with someone and you just think, I just don't feel like you're really being yourself, it's instant barriers, isn't it? It's like, oh, this just isn't working. Don't just talk business. Now, think about if you go networking, how much business do you talk when you're networking? You might do maybe 60% of the conversation, maybe up to 80%. But there's going to be a big chunk of conversation that's about your hellish journey to get there. It's going to be about, why you're running late. It's going to be about something that happened to you yesterday. It's going to be about your children, your dog, your hamster. There's all sorts of things we end up talking about when we're networking that has nothing to do with business. And that's when we build relationships. So don't just talk business. Be you, show you, and as much as you want to, or as little as you want to. But being yourself is really important in this. So I think, this is where Instagram and Facebook stories are quite handy, because we can do that little bit of like, oh, look what I got up to. My one was like, I burnt my hand the other week. So I shared a picture of it, and like, God, everyone was DMing me going, oh, you need to go to the doctors with that. So yeah, not just talking business really helps to have that conversation and build relationships. Share your knowledge, because people go, oh, that's amazing. That's really helped me out. And again, the relationship increases, especially if you are delivering a service based on knowledge, kind of like I am doing talks like this, delivering training. It's based on knowledge. So I've got to do some knowledge as well. And I know we're talking about content, so I shouldn't really say this, but I truly believe the content is only part of the whole social media process. Direct message people. That's when the relationships really build, when it's just you and them having a conversation. That's when the sales really do happen. So don't be afraid to actually speak to people in direct messages. Content is actually a very small part of my social media success. I get most of my business through LinkedIn, and most of it is through DMs. But I know they're also going to, if I'm talking to them on direct message, I know they're going to go and check out my profile. I know they're going to read through some of my content. So it really does matter. But it also matters that I'm having those one-to-one conversations. And get them on your list. You don't own anyone on social media. LinkedIn could close down tomorrow if it wanted to. Instagram could delete your account today if it wanted to. And you've done all that blooming hard work and then it's gone. Get them on your email list. Really, really important. And then finally, before we do move on to questions, I've got to speed through this bit now to make sure we've got time for a few questions. Make it easier by planning ahead. Don't just kind of go, oh, what shall I post today? Try and batch create your content. It takes far less time to record several videos than doing them one individually over a long time. Do you have a bit of a schedule to help you out? So it could be that you're like, oh, every Friday we do a post about this, and every Monday we talk about this, and every Wednesday we do a video. Don't overthink it. We're all human and we all have a habit of doing that, but please don't spend loads of time on this. And don't just rely on your content, because there is so much out there on social media and beyond that can really help you market your business. And if you do need extra help with this, I am running an offer today just for you guys who are on the call or watching the recording. I was going to just keep it open till tomorrow evening, but I'll keep it open till maybe Monday for anyone who's catching up on the recording. If you would like to dive deeper into your content where we actually address it for your business, then I'm going to run a really great offer just for you guys. I don't do this fee for anyone else. And I'm going to allow you to book a content power hour for only £75 plus VAT. They are usually £150 plus VAT minimum, to be honest. I try and charge a bit more than that, but as a minimum, I would never go below 150. But for you guys, please do take up this offer, and only £75 plus VAT, and we will really dive into your content in that hour. In fact, what we possibly could even do is create your content for a whole month while we're in that hour. Or certainly not create the content, but come up with ideas for a whole month's worth of content. So I'll leave that on the screen so that you can refer back to that. I've put it in the chat box as well. And it would be great to do some questions, I think.
Sam, thank you so, so much. You have fit so much into that hour.
That was talking very fast, yeah.
There have been so many questions, so I will dive straight in because I know I'm just conscious of time. So first one, nice and easy. How short is short? I think you said 30 seconds was about the right time.
Yeah, less than 30 seconds preferably. I mean, really as short as you can make it is probably the answer in this day and age.
Amazing. And how many posts is too many per day, would you say?
It's really tricky because it depends on so many factors, the platform, the business, if you're doing a running kind of commentary of a conference you're at, for example, But generally, you've got to remember that your posts are in competition with each other. If we were in chronological order, it wouldn't matter so much. But because your posts are in competition with each other on the algorithm, I would probably not do more than one a day as a result. And, on some platforms like LinkedIn, it generally actually works better to do maybe 4 or 5, probably about 4 a week, rather than kind of doing back-to-back posts day to day.
Interesting. I'd never really thought about the algorithm, you being in competition with yourself. So that's such a good point. Love that. Is it important to have a text hook at the start of your content, would you say?
Yes, absolutely. And as I say, if we did a whole day on content, it's be something we'd really address, because you want them to, it only shows the first couple of lines, and then you want them to click that more button. So if you can build intrigue in that first line, something like, "Can I tell you a secret?" Or, "I've never talked about this to anyone before," or, "This could be the biggest thing to change your life today." Whatever it is, that hook really can make a huge difference.
Definitely. Do you recommend people try CapCut for templates?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, in this day and age, there are loads and loads of brilliant apps out there that help with all of this. CapCut, even using the Instagram Reels templates can be nice and simple to do kind of a gallery of images with matching music. Canva, Canva's got some great templates. There are loads out there, but yeah, CapCut definitely is a brilliant option.
Do you recommend using AI for repurposing or posting content across platforms? I know we didn't purposely didn't.
No, we could go down the AI route. Yeah, I know. Yeah. And to be honest, AI is great. But if we keep creating content through AI, it does show. There is that kind of little, like, oh, that's AI. You've got to get your prompt perfect. So, for example, most of the AI tools out there are very much Americanized. So if you don't say in a tone of someone that has been born in England, for example, it's going to be quite Americanized. So if you can get your prompts right, then why not use AI? But the problem is people go on and go, "Can you write a post for me about, I don't know, getting a baby to sleep or something?" And then the post is very Americanized, littered with weird like emojis. And it's like, that doesn't sound like you. So AI only works if you can really teach it about who you are and give it lots and lots of great prompts to show who you actually are.
Fab. Sometimes being controversial can get you noticed.
Mm.
I suppose it depends what type of attention it is and if you're happy with it. What are your thoughts on being controversial?
Yeah, I mean, it's so true, isn't it? There's so many personalities out there that have got where they are because they are controversial, and they wouldn't be famous if they weren't controversial. So for some businesses, it can really work. I know there are some kind of small business owners who do lots of swearing on social media. They're very controversial, and it's really, really worked for them. But the thing is, it's got to align with you and your values and your personality. Don't kind of put it and go, "Oh God, I'm cringing inside out that I said that," because that probably means it doesn't align with your personality. If it's like, "Oh, well, this is just what I talk about in the pub with my mates," and also you think this is going to attract the right audience to me and not repel that audience, then yeah, sometimes controversy works. It obviously depends what you're doing, and hope, we are in a obviously cancel culture now, so we do need to make sure we're not kind of steering it too extreme, and do think it through a bit. But yeah, absolutely, if it aligns with your personality, your values, you don't think it'll put people off your business and it'll attract people to you, go ahead.
And I guess as well to add to that, there's going to be a bit of negativity probably if it's controversial. So be prepared.
Yes, don't be conflict averse. Yeah.
Does it negatively affect algorithms on LinkedIn if a poll doesn't get too many responses?
I mean, yeah, unfortunately, every time you post and it doesn't get much response, no matter what type of post it is, it does negatively impact the algorithm. And you do need to then think about, well, what can I put out there that will definitely give it a whole, a bolster? What I would say is if you put a poll out and within an hour no one's answered it, I would try and maybe just find some people you know very well and go, "Oh, please, can you just jump on and answer my poll?" And it'll just give it a little bit of a boost to get it rolling. There is, I'm not a big fan of these kind of like, can't think of the word now, but groups where it's like, right, I've posted this, everyone jump in straight away and comment on it, because it's all a bit fake. But if you do need that little boost, just going in and speaking to some mates, business mates, and going, "Oh, would you mind just engagement pods? Thank you. Just saw that pop in the chat." Yeah, I'm not a fan of them. But yeah, if it's people that actually generally interact with you anyway, and they just haven't seen it, there's no harm in putting it in front of a few people. And always answer your own poll as well, is another really important one. People can't see who's voted apart from you, so it just is shown as a vote.
Amazing. And just to follow on from that, if a poll has got quite no engagement, but it's been, I don't know, 48 hours or whatever, would you recommend still keeping the poll on your profile, or would you delete it?
Oh, I would always keep everything. I'm not some, I mean, this is a personal thing, I guess, because I don't attach kind of engagement with people's opinion of me, if that makes sense. So I would never delete something off my feed just because I think, oh, I didn't get the response I wanted. I just learn from it and move on. I think to be honest, it's not a common thing for people to kind of scroll through people's posts on their profile anyway. So most people won't even notice.
Amazing. I think we've got time for one more question. I know there's at least like 15 plus that we haven't got to. So if anyone has got questions, you can reach out to Sam via her LinkedIn. I think she shared it earlier. And you can, I'm sure you'll be very happy to answer those, won't you, Sam?
Of course, absolutely.
Or we have actually run out of time. Thank you so much, Sam, for today. Thank you everyone for joining. We will be sharing the replay tomorrow, so you can catch up if you would like to go over anything. Any final words of wisdom or advice before we go?
Yeah, just enjoy it. Don't let this be a huge chore, because if it becomes a huge chore, then it's going to block your creative flow. So just trying to get into a space where you actually enjoy being on social media and creating content.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. I hope that you all have wonderful rest of the days and maybe make some content.
Thanks very much. See you later. Bye.